Hi everyone. Pop quiz. It's not too hard. Who was saved from the Mabul? Now I know you've all learned by now not to trust these little pop quizzes. But seriously, this one is almost laughably easy. After all, the Torah literally answers our question itself. Indeed, we read that the Mabul heaped utter destruction on the entire world. We learn that everything on the ground, human, animal, bird or plant, was destroyed. And the Torah adds, "Vayishaer ach Noach ba'asher ito b'teva." Only Noach and that which was with him remained with him alive in the teva. So there you have it. It's a simple answer to our question. Those who were inside the teva were saved. Those who were not, did not. But, and this by now I'm sure you know, is not the rest of the story. Many of the commentaries note that the additional limitation hinted by the word ach only comes to add somebody else who lived. And who was that? It was the giant king Og. Indeed, the Talmud notes that somehow, perhaps through the cooling waters surrounding the teva, Og managed to remain attached to the teva and clung to life. The Targum Yonasan says that he was on the roof, while Pirkei Rebbe Lezer fantastically opines that he made a deal with Noach to hide under the ladder by the door to the teva. He cut a hole through that teva wall from which he drew his breath and through which Noach fed him every single day of the Mabul. It was only through this connection that Og managed to survive. Now that's a fantastic story. But if it's true, why does the Torah suggest otherwise? Why are we led to think that Noach and his family survived and no one else, when it's evident that Og too survived? Why don't we openly give him his due as a survivor as well? Why don't we highlight Og? And Rashi doesn't help matters at all. For on the very words that could have given us a glimpse into this enigma, Rashi ignores the matter entirely. For on the very words that hint to Og's survival, Rashi comments, Umedrash Haggadah, says Rashi, there's a medrash that says, Haya goneach v'kohe dam mitorach habehemos v'hachayos. Noach and his family were literally coughing and spitting blood from all of the work associated with caring for the animals. In fact, some people note that Noach was late with feeding one of the lions, and that lion bit Noach. Now Rashi has a vast array of midrashim to share with us. And what does he choose? He chooses the lion and the spitting of the blood to highlight that Noach was not just simply cruising while he was in the teva. I get that. But why do we ignore the Gemara, which introduces us to a different angle from these words, the Og angle, and share the one of Noach's degradation instead? I believe that there's a connection between that which is said, both by Rashi and the Torah, and that which is not said. Quite ironically, it comes down to a question of connection. You see, let me tell you a quick story. According to the Medrash Socher Tov, Avraham once met Shem, the son of Noach. And when they met, Avraham Avinu asked him, what merit was it that allowed you to leave the teva? And so Shem told him it was the merit of tzedakah. You know, the idea of chesed, that we, those of us who were on the teva, that we did. And so Avraham challenged him. What? Where were there poor people on the teva to give money to? What kind of tzedakah are you talking about? I mean, seriously. To which Shem told him, no, I'm talking about a different tzedakah. The tzedakah that was done with the animals. You see, the animals demanded so much of our time that we barely slept in the teva. In fact, Shem tells Avram Avinu, one time Noach was late and was bitten by a lion. And so Avram Avinu hears this story and he makes a calculation in his head. If this is the reward for connecting to a world and for sustaining the plants and animals, it should certainly be the case for taking care of human beings. And this is why Avram chooses to plant his Aisha, literally his tree, but his home of chesed, for everyone around him. Fascinating. Avram's whole chesed operation was built on the principles of the Teva. I see that. And that this new post-Mabul world being built on chesed connections is important, it's a critical lesson, check. But why the highlight of a merit to leave the Teva, as Avram asked? And what does it have to do with the Og situation anyway? And I believe the answer comes down to how we handle life challenges. Do we aim to survive them or to thrive through them beyond? You see, sometimes there's a value in just holding on while the craziness of the world goes on around us. We seem to think if we can just get through each and every day, we will survive. And when we're in survival mode, psychologists note that we survive better as a group than alone. And this certainly seems to be the case when we survive by connecting beyond just levels of the moment. Shared ideas, beliefs solidify survival chances of a group, and the connection within it fosters hope, which in turn invigorates that will to survive. And here's where I believe Og did seize on an opportunity. He saw a world that was heading to destruction, and he was afraid that he wouldn't make it. And he looked up, and he saw a place, a teva, that was literally going to survive. And so he connected to it. He clung to it literally. He breathed its air of hope, and it sustained him through the storm of the Mabul. And in that regard, Og is as much of a survivor as all the people inside the Teva. However, merely surviving, it's like treading water. It's a mindset that holds you in place for a while, but it demonstrates no attempt at changing course to create a better world or place. To move forward, you need to plan and join and practice and ultimately swim on. And that didn't happen with those who survived the Mabul. It only happened with those who thrived inside the Teva. You see, the Medrash comments that when it comes to Noach, shesulim beveis Hashem ze Noach sheshesalo HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'Teva. Hashem literally planted Noach inside the Teva. Hashem gave the roots and nurtured Noach's growth to create that yeshiva shul of chesed, wherein the rules of connection, of living together and supporting one another and connecting to build a better world community, was deemed a personal responsibility of everyone therein. Everyone contributes in the world of chesed. The Teva then served not only as a place of respite from the torrential terror of the outside, it was a place to refocus and to plan and to train and to execute the new world order being shaped inside. The Teva wasn't merely a shelter, it was a lab, a school of life. When you're using the Teva to survive as Og did, you use it and then you lose it. The commentaries note that this is why Noach needed to use the birds to see if the world was ready to be inhabited again. Why didn't he merely ask Og? After all, he was outside. And the answer, say the commentaries, is because Og had run away and gotten off. He survived to live another day, and now he left the picture. He never made that shift to being a contributor, and thus he didn't remain. Who did? The Torah tells us, Ach Noach, only Noach, and those who learn that a new world is one where you give, in a world of chesed. Only those people thrived. Only those remain. So yes, in the background there may be a survivor Og, but the Ach Noach, the world gets built by the Noachs inside the Teva, who create that world of chesed. Rav Chaim Yaakov Goldberg, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, my Rosh Hashiva in Keren B'Yavneh, and the founder of the Hesder movement, used to remind us regularly that the same is true when we think of our shuls and yeshivas. We're not to look at them as merely respites from the workday or the busyness of business. Shuls and schools are not only about proper social outlets for us or our children. That outlook is the Og model of the Teva, the model that sees the connection as a means of survival. And it's not to say that a shul or yeshiva shouldn't provide that. But if you really want to know why and how you should connect to a shul, Remember that the shul is a model of give and take. It's the center for Torah in town. A Torah of Torah's Chaim, the Torah of life. The shul is the anchor of tefillah, the place that we go to daven with and for one another. Not only to make a minyan from my own kaddish, but to make a place where everyone who belongs, whether you can physically attend or not yet, but everyone knows that we're always keeping you in our minds, and hope as you daven, you're keeping us in yours. That doesn't happen unless you foster the connection, to belong, to connect to the teva that is Adas Yisrael. This Shabbos, we have the chance to express Hakaras HaTov to our dear friends Rabbi and Mrs. Carlin for their extreme dedication to our Parshas Noach. From their first arrival in our community, Rabbi and Mrs. Carlin have seen and used the shul as a lab, a place to incubate Torah-inspired forward thinking in our children, and by extension, in our homes and community. Whether it be the youth program that they revamped, the shiurim that they've provided, the friendships, the chesed, the atzala, or even just the invigoration of the minyanim, especially minyan Sfaradim, Rabbi and Mrs. Carlin have personified Parshas Noach in its AI form, and we have all had tremendous impact from all of them. We thank them for everything that they have done and wish them tremendous success and nachas in all of their Maaseh Yadayim. We also have the opportunity this Shabbos to share in the bat mitzvah of Sarah Schechter, a special young lady with tremendous midos. Sarah's always ready to pick up a friend and do the right thing, to foster the ideals of friendship, of goodness, of community. I marvel that no matter what time I pass her home on a Shabbos afternoon, it's a rare time that I don't get a very warm reception from Sarah. And I know that I'm not the only one. But that is the inviting nature of a Sarah, who knows that the world is built on chesed. And how does she know it? She learned it in a life lab called the Schechter Home. Yisrael and Bracha seem to live and breathe chesed instead of air, always involved if there's a place for them to make an impact, whether it be the shul, whether it be the sisterhood, the school, the Hatzalah, the Tomchei Shabbos, the chesed connection that we formed during the pandemic. The list is incredibly, amazingly endless, and never are they doing it with a survival instinct. The Schechters have been leaders from the Thriver model, from the first day they stepped foot in our community. They create worlds of chesed and foster connection in our shul and our community, and we all benefit from that type of leadership. And so, Sarah, my bracha to you and your siblings is that you take that model and you build on it. I'm sure we're going to see great things from all of you in that process. My dear friends, the pandemic has caused many of us throughout the entire world community to think and to act differently. It's not a secret that in the religious world, many are wondering why they should belong to religious institutions if they frankly cannot attend. But in Judaism and our community model, the Teva model of shuls reminds us that we don't belong to survive, to see what we're getting. We belong to connect and to thrive and to grow personally and communally. And it's this realization of the importance of shul connection that will not only get us through the pandemic in a survival model, it'll make sure that we in our community will emerge stronger and better for the wear. Make sure you stay connected with us. Make sure you're connected with our shul. And I guarantee you in the process, we are looking to connect with you as well. Shabbat Shalom to all.